Welcome to another episode of Transcending to Your Best Life. This is Mike Cerrito. I'm a sports psychology and performing arts psychology counselor and a cognitive rehabilitation therapist with a Talented Mind Clinic. And I'm here with
Tina Shiver, a registered dietitian and certified functional medicine, and with Lighten Up Incorporated.
So today, in this episode, we're going to build on the last two episodes that we had, the first one had to do, what is it like being in balance in your life? The second episode was, what is it like being out of balance? And now the third, we're going to bring it all together around how to live a life in balance, both nutritionally and psychologically. So, Tina, what I notice is there's really two types of areas that any one of us need to be aware of to keep our lives psychologically in balance. One is our lifestyle foundations. So I've identified 10 lifestyle foundations. These are things that if people can create a routine for each one of these things, or not, you don't have to do all 10, but even half, even one, just a routine that is a foundational element of keeping you mentally and physically in balance and not too high, not too low, but in an optimal zone where you feel centered and focused, then that gives them a leg up on being able to use then the second type of methods, which are coping skills. So I want you to think of that there are foundational routines you can build into your life to keep yourself in balance. Then there are coping skills and methods that you can implement when you feel out of balance, when someone makes a joke and you think it's at your expense. Well, there's probably a coping skill that you can have at that time to feel less anxious or angry, that you can keep yourself in balance with. But today, what we're going to do is I'm going to briefly talk about 10 lifestyle routines you can create. The coping skills, there are so many available, but the one thing I want you to do around those is to think about who is one person you can contact if you're feeling really bad. Or in addition to that, and usually that works beautifully for people, but also, are there things that you can do that will soothe you? It could be taking a bath. It could be walking outside. It could be exercising. It could be cooking a meal you enjoy. It could be watching a show that makes you laugh. It could be anything in the moment that can soothe you. And what I recommend you do around the coping skills is come up with 3 coping skills that really work for you, and also one person that you can contact when things really are not good for you emotionally, when you really need another person to listen, to acknowledge that we all go through this, that you're not alone, that you have support. So let's now look at the foundational routines you can implement. The first one, and Tina will talk a little bit more about this, which is healthy nutrition. And that is very key. And one of the things that I do in my practice is I'm not a nutritionist, but I know one that I refer to a lot. and which is Tina, and I dig into their nutritional habits through uh, normally throughout an average day or an average week, because I want to rule in or out whether I need for them to get more education and tools to manage their nutrition, because it has such a profound effect on their overall health and their balance. The next one is sleep. Now, sleep, the one thing I want to mention about sleep is the restorative power to the brain with sleep is tremendous. I think I read somewhere that sleep actually helps the brain far greater than the body to restore itself. And the one thing, though, sleep does, which is tremendous, is sleep takes all the information and memory we have from the day, and it gives our brains the the time and space to either decide what do I need to get rid of, like what memories that I don't need at all. And then it takes individual pieces of memory and it links it to thousands and millions of other pieces of memory. So it consolidates memory to create almost like a web or patterns of information that help you recall information. So if, like, I was talking to a patient the other day and he was trying to tell me the name of a nurse, and I said, start describing the nurse and where you were around the nurse with the nurse. And he kept talking and describing where he was and what the nurse looked like. And then he came up with the nurse's name, because the nurse's name was connected to other pieces of information. So it's a beautiful thing sleep does, is it helps us consolidate memory. Also, supportive relationships is another um, very important routine. One of the things that we're noticing now in the world around us is loneliness has increased significantly. Some people actually believe it's its own pandemic now.
Is that because of post-COVID or just overall?
Oh, COVID really influenced that
Uh-huh.
greatly, the isolation, but also the use of social media.
Right.
It's the use of social media in our overall culture. We're giving messages that we're segmenting people now into race, gender, class far more than before, which starts having people dislike other groups a little more or feel less in union with other groups more. So we feel less of a broader community of people and more, and we're dissected into smaller communities now in our overall culture. And there's benefits to that. And there's a downside in terms of we feel disconnected from more people than connected, because we're viewing people based on their differences than similarities, far more than we ever had. And the next one is meditation, yoga, or some mind body methods. Um, the one thing I'm working with patients on is qigong, because it integrates a lot of mind body movement and practices. And I'm having people develop qigong routines at home at different parts of the day if they need it. Then the next one is some type of spiritual faith, and it doesn't have to be a strict religious faith. But what helps some people is a feeling as if they are a part of some larger divinity or spirit, something bigger than themselves that is loving and caring and nurturing for us. the next one is just enjoying nature. We tend to view ourselves so separate from nature because we try to control nature. One of the, I think the largest crops in existence now in the US is our lawns in neighborhoods. That's the largest crop. I would imagine we can call it a crop, but it's, and think about it, what it is, the value of a lawn, there may be some irrigation value to it, or erosion value to it, but it's very much a status or a aesthetic that we're trying to reach. So we're very disconnected to nature. So the next time you're out hiking, I want you to stop and just listen and observe nature and just look at the power of its stillness. And but yet it's a home to so many creatures, including ourselves. So we have a lot we can learn and experience and feel through connecting with nature. The next one is our hands-on hobbies. It's interesting, the digital world has kept us from working hands-on, building things, painting, sculpting. Like I make three-dimensional collages because I have to work with my hands and I have to work with bits and pieces that other people have discarded to create something that I think is artful. Well, so look for hands-on hobbies that you can create, whether it be cooking as a hobby, baking, all the way to gardening, whatever it is, something where it's a hands-on activity where you touch and feel things.
Or crocheting. Even I remember
Crocheting.
when my brothers, we were all young, we did embroidery. My mom made us embroidery pillowcases.
Really?
And we all had our name with
Oh,
whatever, like I had a cat. I think my brothers had dog. But yeah,
do you
so
still have it?
yes, I do.
Nice.
I know.
Very nice.
I don't know if they do, but
That's why she lived till 90, right?
maybe so.
Yeah. And another thing is focusing in the moment, especially stillness. This is something that I'm working with patients on right now, is teaching them to remain still in the moment. We're taught through mindfulness to be aware of ourselves and the world in the moment, which is wonderful. But there's another level that goes on when we're just trying to be still without attachment in the moment. It's really quite remarkable what clients see and experience both internally and externally when they try to remain still. And finally, keeping your life simple. My wife and I are now going through our house, getting rid of things that we've accumulated over the years because all three of our sons are out on their own and we don't need stuff. And as we're going through it, we're constantly asking ourselves, what were we thinking getting this? Or what were we thinking getting this amount of this thing?
Right.
And it's really quite remarkable how we complicate our lives, not only our physical lives, but just our mental lives. So, one thing I want to encourage you to do is take these lifestyle foundations that can help keep you in balance and maybe just choose one to start with that you feel that if you can develop a good routine around that, it'll really make a nice difference in your life to keep your mind and your body in balanced, flexible, focused, relaxed, and where you feel you have control in your life. But what about on the nutritional side, Tina?
Yeah, so with nutritionally forming good habits, right? Which might be planning ahead, planning your meals ahead for the week. It could be just maybe that night planning what you're going to eat the next day, maybe keeping food records. Maybe also keeping symptom records. Like, okay, if I eat this way,
Oh,
here's my plan, and I don't feel so good. Maybe I had fatigue in the afternoon. Is that related to what I had to eat? So really getting in touch with food as medicine and how it affects your body.
very nice.
Right? I mean, it really gets down to you're an individual, and you have to figure out whether it be carbs, protein, or fat, instead of making yourself crazy of, okay, I need this amount of protein, this amount of fat. It's just like, here's my plan. I feel good on this. And no matter what the amount of protein to fat to carbs is, I feel good. This is what I've figured out for my body.
So it's being curious,
Yes.
and it's being a little bit of an investigator in your own body.
Yes. Yes. I mean, people come in all the time and they're like, give me a food plan, right? You're going to give me a food plan, right? And I'm like, of course, I'll give you a food plan, but I also want you to experiment. And then if this doesn't work for you, how can we change it? It doesn't have to be in stone, because if it is, you're not going to hold on to it long term.
What are some of the things I would try to notice or be aware of, like symptoms of what I eat?
So definitely, you could be starving in the morning. You could wake up in the middle of the night hungry. It's another
Mm.
one. You could have a headache in the morning or in the afternoon, or you could have a headache all day. You could, what else? What else? What else? You could have brain fog.
Ah,
It's one that I forgot. So definitely brain fog. You could have, let's see, what else? You could have cravings for sugar or salt, like we talked about before. Um, those are the main ones, I think. Again, it goes back to blood sugar being out of control. You want to have that blood sugar pretty even throughout the day, and that will hopefully prevent a lot of those symptoms.
so then would I notice those things? Let's say I have a headache at the same time every day, or I used to have more of a brain fog, like
Mhm.
towards a certain part of the day, and then I would kind of snap out of it. I think probably after I ate something, most likely, because during the day I may have a tendency to undereat.
Mhm.
Um, would I then try to figure out, okay, I have a headache at 3 o'clock. Would I experiment? Like, does that mean what was I eating or not eating?
Mhm.
In other words, how do I problem solve that?
So well, I mean, a lot of times people will come in and they'll talk about headaches, and they'll be like, "What time of the day?" And they'll say afternoon is a great example of what you just said. And so what they do is they start saying, okay, change your lunch up a little bit, or
Mm.
change your breakfast, or maybe you didn't have enough breakfast. Just try, here are some different ideas to try, and see if it clears up the headache. Maybe it's not food, maybe it's environmental, maybe there's allergies, there's the ragweed is high,
Right.
maybe it's both. Maybe your headache lessens if you start eating a little bit more at breakfast and lunch. Maybe you should not skip breakfast. That might be why you're having a headache either at night for dinner, or you're so hungry you can't stop eating.
So it's like any investigator,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
Sherlock Holmes or any other one. It's really looking at the evidence and saying, what caused this?
I like that. And I also like that you're your own investigator. Instead of Googling, Dr. Google, right?
Yeah.
And trying to figure out, okay, here's all the, listen to your body and investigate. Is it because I'm not feeling good about myself today? Am I feeling depressed? Did somebody say something to me? Did I hear some bad news? Because bad news can definitely affect your GI tract. That's another symptom, is diarrhea or constipation.
Yes.
That could mean that either your diet's off or there's a stressor involved as well. Because remember, I think it's yeah, your immune system's in your gut. Part of your immune system is in your gut as well. So I love the investigator idea. I think that people should become their own investigator and explore over time, and know that it's not necessarily going to work its way out in a week. But if it's a headache and food related, it will probably work itself out in a day or two.
Really, very good news. Very good. Well, thank you for
Yeah.
spending this time with us. And I hope that at least one or two things you found helpful that you can integrate into your own life. And remember, this is really about uh, investigating, being aware, and experimenting with all different types of methods. There's so many things you can do nutritionally and just from a lifestyle to keep yourself balanced and create the best life you can possibly create for yourself. So we're going to be having another podcast shortly. So stay tuned. And this is Mike Cerrito.
And Tina Shiver.
And transition to your best life.